be talking about all those times when, you as a professional performing artist of one kind or another are like on a gig, or you're teaching a student, or you've just received, $100 for like hours and hours and hours of work. Or maybe sometimes you're even wondering, like, do the arts, music, dance, theater, circus, does it really matter in this world of crisis? We find ourselves in the situation pretty frequently, and we can ask ourselves, like, is this really why I got into music or arts, dance? It can be pretty dispiriting, right? Like if you have a student who just doesn't practice, or yeah, you're on some soul draining corporate gig. There's this feeling that our gifts simply aren't being met. So maybe I'll introduce myself here too. My name is Joseph Arnold. I'm a violinist, Alexander Technique teacher, and co-founder of the Soulforce Performing Arts School. And yeah, I'm going to be talking about gifts and how the sense of meaninglessness that comes from, or about the sense of meaninglessness that can come from our gifts not being well received. So yeah, like this is a really great frame for understanding all those times when you're asking yourself, like, is this really why I got into this? So the spirit of the gift and the spirit of the arts are really so similar. I think they're one and the same, really. So, for instance, a gift is different than a transaction. In a transaction, you give your money, like at the grocery store, and you get the groceries, and then it's over. There's no more human connection needed there. You don't really need the grocery store clerk. They're interchangeable, and to the grocery store clerk, they don't really need you. It's just a job that they're getting paid for, and so you're an interchangeable customer. And so there's something about the nature of transaction, a money mediated transaction like this, that actually creates a sense of distance and cuts off human connection. But a gift is something very different. A gift creates ties. So if I give you something, then you might feel some obligation to give in return. And that obligation, that word comes from ligate, to tie together, like a ligament, like in your muscles and joints. So gifts tie people together. And we can this is really important for helping us understand what makes life meaningful, especially for artists. One of the things that makes life meaningful is when you give your gifts, right? Like, this is why we get into the arts. We have something inside that we want to express, and it feels good to give it, right? It feels good to express it fully. This is what arts training is about, right? There's another side to that, though, right? We need our gifts to be well received. Because if you put in all this time and care and energy and love into your gift, and you give that gift and it's not well received, it's dispiriting, right? But if it is well received, then it's really enlivening. So one thing that you can do is to examine the situations in your life where you have this sort of dispiriting feeling. Why did I really get into this as a musician or an artist or whatever? And you can examine it through the lens of the gift. One thing, like, why is it so dispiriting when a student doesn't practice? It's because they're not honoring your gift of showing up with all your training and all the care that you bring to teaching, right? So it's your gift not being well received. Now, there's a lot I could say about student practicing. I'll do another video on that. But for now, you could just get used to seeing this lens, and like for the world at large, there are so many problems in the world, right? We really live in a world in crisis, and something that's really dispiriting for many artists is to see the world in crisis and wonder, like, what can I do? Do the arts really matter in this situation? I think a lot about climate change. I'm writing a book about how artists can help with climate change directly through our art. So I'm thinking about this a lot. And again, very simply, that feeling of hopelessness, helplessness, despair comes from having a gift, our artistic craft or whatever it is, and not seeing how to give it and having it be well received in service of healing the world. If you want to learn more about that, subscribe to this channel. Buy my book when it's done next year sometime. So I'm writing a whole book about exactly how to do that. So I'll tell you, we'll finish this up here with a little story. I played a gig recently. I won't say where, but it was one of these corporate gigs. And, there's just a couple people in the audience. And, a couple of people were listening, which is nice. But mostly just like people passing through. And I could sense how this would be a time when, I would get rather dispirited. It's like, why am I here? If I were to really give it my all, would I be a dupe? Right? So then I thought of one of my favorite philosophers, Charles Eisenstein. You can go check him out. He's great. Um, he says that what the world needs right now, since um, things seem so dire, at least in terms of climate change, like what can we really do about that? Lots of answers, but nothing's getting done. What we really need are some miracles. A whole series of big miracles. And the way I think about miracles, it's not necessarily through some religious connotation, but something that's life changing, right? We've all experienced these life changing moments when something amazing happens, something really beautiful, or there's this senseless act of kindness. And art is something that's senseless as well, in a way, where there's this, it's senselessly beautiful. It's more beautiful than it needs to be. And that's why it touches us. Whew. Yeah, I'm getting touched right now. And so this is what we can do as artists. We can be miracle makers. You are a miracle maker, if you choose to be. So that's what I thought about on that gig. That gave me a place to channel my gift of playing violin on this gig, right? I thought, well, you know what? Maybe somebody in this audience will be touched by what I'm doing. Maybe that will create a little miracle in their life. And maybe it's just one person who is touched by this miracle. But we've all heard of the butterfly effect. Even if that person, doesn't know many people, down the road, it's like dominoes, hitting one each other, falling down. It really can make a big effect, especially in the long term. And the debate around climate change is so short term, like the next couple decades. But the Earth is still going to be here 500 years from now. What if you created a miracle for somebody? Then that helped your ancestors 500 years from now. What if that opened up a whole new world of possibilities for our ancestors? In that way, the lessons that you teach, the gigs that you play, the things that you learn and do as an artist can't help but be significant. It's inevitable, undeniable, that everything you do matters. So, go be a miracle maker. All right. I think that's all for now. If you like this kind of stuff, I'm going to be making more of this. Feel free to subscribe. Um, and we have an email list. I'll be sending out videos and blog posts on that. You can go to my website to sign up for that. And yeah, keep an eye out for my book. It's called Soulforce, Performing Arts, Redefining Artistic Performance, Practice, and Pedagogy in a World That's Lost Its Mind. All right. See you next time.